All right, so we're diving into Star Wars again, but this time it's something totally different. We're looking at the High Republic era. You familiar with this
Oh
one?
yeah, this is fascinating stuff. It's like 200 years before the Phantom Menace even happens.
So no Skywalkers yet.
No Skywalkers.
Oh.
This is like the peak of the Jedi Order.
Prime time for the Jedi.
Golden Age of the Republic, yeah.
You're going deep with Charles Soule's Light of the Jedi.
Yeah, that's the book that launched this whole thing.
I've also got some reviews, a little Wikipedia to keep us honest. But the big thing here, right out of the gate, is this event they call the Great Disaster. So imagine this giant passenger ship, Legacy Run, cruising through hyperspace.
Oh, yeah.
And it just explodes.
Yeah.
Shatters into pieces.
Monstrosity.
Debris flying everywhere at like near light speed.
Across the galaxy.
Yeah, like think about the scale of that.
Yeah.
Planets are in danger.
Yeah.
Systems, everything.
Total chaos.
And that's when the Jedi have to step in. They're like first responders.
Right away. And Avar Kriss is leading the charge?
Yeah, Avar Kriss, she's amazing. I was reading about her. She can hear the Force like a song. Did you know that?
Yeah, it's how she connects with the other Jedi.
And like feels what's happening all across the galaxy.
Right. Coordinates their efforts. Keeps them in sync.
There's this crazy scene where she's using the Force to move this huge chunk of the Legacy Run away from a star.
Oh, wow.
It would have caused a supernova if it hit.
So she's preventing a supernova.
Talk about pressure.
That's some serious force power.
See, that's what I love about the High Republic. We see the Jedi like we've never seen them before.
Totally different context.
They're not just warriors, they're peacekeepers, yeah. But also, like, cosmic traffic controllers.
Huh, yeah, I like that.
But this whole disaster, it has repercussions, right?
Huge impact on the Republic.
They shut down all hyperspace travel.
Which is like shutting down every airway on Earth, but on a galactic scale.
It throws everything into chaos.
People are stranded. Trade is disrupted. It breeds fear and uncertainty.
Perfect breeding ground for the bad guys, right?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So tell me about the Jedi themselves in this era. What's different from, say, the movies?
Well, first off, they're united. There's a real sense of camaraderie. Not like the prequels where there's already some infighting.
Yeah, that arrogance, right?
Right. These Jedis are powerful but also humble.
It makes sense, right? They're not constantly at war.
They have time to focus on their training, on serving the Republic, and on really understanding the Force.
So their connection to the Force is different, too.
Definitely. We meet Elzar Mann in the book.
Oh, yeah.
He sees the Force as this huge ocean.
Wow.
And he's always trying to dive deeper, understand it more. Sometimes that gets him into trouble.
So they're not just all about meditation and lightsaber practice.
No, they're exploring, experimenting. There's room for individual expression.
That's so cool. And there's Buryaga Agabury.
Yes, the Wookiee Padawan.
He sees the Force as a giant tree.
Connected to everything, a very different perspective.
It's amazing. Soule really shows the diversity of the Jedi. Different personalities, different interpretations of the Force. But it makes you wonder, what could possibly challenge the Jedi at a time like this?
Ah, that's where the Nihil come in.
The Nihil, yeah, these guys sound like trouble. From what I've read, they're like marauders. Space pirates.
Yeah, exactly.
And they're actually thriving because of the Great Disaster.
All the chaos is good for them.
They're like the dark mirror to the Jedi.
They operate in the shadows, where the Republic is weak.
They're scary.
They're ruthless. And they have this advanced hyperspace technology.
Yeah, I read about that. They can strike anywhere in the galaxy.
Makes them incredibly dangerous.
And their leader, Marchion Ro. He's a mystery, isn't he?
Very enigmatic. We know he's a master manipulator.
Yeah, always a few steps ahead.
Pulling the strings.
It's like the Jedi have never faced anything like this before. Not just some random bad guys. This is a whole different kind of threat.
They represent chaos itself, a threat to the very fabric of the Republic.
But the Nihil aren't just a disorganized mob, right? There's some structure there.
You're right. They have these groups called Tempest Runners.
Tempest Runners.
Each led by an eye, who's like their warlord.
So they're like mini factions within the Nihil.
Exactly, each with their own ships and territory.
But all answering to Marching Ro.
In theory, at least. They have this weird mix of hierarchy and anarchy. Makes them very unpredictable.
It's like Marching Ro is playing a very dangerous game.
Oh, absolutely.
Using these Tempest Runners to spread chaos across the galaxy.
Yeah.
But what's his end game, I wonder?
What does he really want? That's the big question.
We get some hints in the book, though, right?
Yes, some glimpses into his thinking. He seems to believe that the Republic is weak, decadent, ripe for the taking.
So maybe he sees the Nihil as a way to tear it all down. Start fresh. Even if it means chaos.
It's a frightening thought.
It really is.
And it raises questions about the Jedi's role.
Are they strong enough to face this kind of threat?
Can they protect the Republic from something like this?
Because this isn't just a war, right?
It's an assault on everything the Republic stands for.
It's like their traditional methods might not be enough.
You're right, they're used to facing things head-on. The Nihil are like shadows, striking from the darkness.
And disappearing just as quickly.
Exactly. The Jedi are going to have to adapt, use their unity, their connection to the Force, to anticipate the Nihil's moves.
It's almost like a chess game.
In a way, yes.
The Jedi trying to predict Martian Ro's next move,
Right.
while also protecting the Republic from the Tempest Runners.
It's a battle on multiple fronts.
And all this while the Republic is trying to build Starlight Beacon, this massive space station out in the Outer Rim.
A symbol of unity and progress.
Like a counterpoint to the Nihil.
A beacon of hope.
Tell me more about Starlight Beacon.
It represents Chancellor Lina So's vision for the Republic, expanding into the unknown, bringing peace and prosperity to the entire galaxy.
That's a bold vision, especially at a time like this.
It is, but it speaks to the optimism of this era, the belief that the Republic can overcome anything.
It's a nice change from the doom and gloom of the later movies. But it also makes you wonder, knowing what we know about the fall of the Jedi and the rise of the Empire, how could things go so wrong?
That's the question, isn't it? That hangs over this whole era.
We know this golden age won't last.
So what are the cracks in the foundation? What will lead to the Republic's downfall?
Is it an external threat, like the Nihil? Or something from within?
Perhaps a bit of both. That's what makes it so interesting to explore.
We see the seeds of both greatness and destruction being planted.
And we're left wondering which will ultimately take root.
One thing I noticed in light of the Jedi is how Soule connects this era to the Skywalker saga, even though it's centuries earlier.
Oh yes, those subtle connections.
Like the Santeca family.
Who we meet again in The Force Awakens.
It's like we're seeing the early chapters of a much bigger story.
A story that spans generations.
And it makes you wonder, what other connections are hidden in there, waiting to be discovered?
I'm sure there are plenty. That's part of the fun of exploring a new era.
It's like piecing together a puzzle.
Trying to see the bigger picture.
Speaking of piecing things together, one thing that struck me about the Jedi in this era is how they view their lightsabers.
Oh, how so?
It's not just a weapon to them.
Right.
It's more like a symbol of their commitment to peace.
They draw them only as a last resort.
Yeah, I noticed that.
They believe in diplomacy and negotiation.
But when they do draw their lightsabers, against the Nihil especially, it feels different.
It carries more weight.
It's not just a fight, it's a clash of ideologies.
Order versus chaos. Peace versus violence.
And through those clashes, we see their strength.
Their dedication to protecting the Republic.
But they're not just fighting with lightsabers, are they?
No, they use the Force in amazing ways.
Not just to defend themselves, but to help others, to heal, to inspire.
It's a very different approach to the Force than what we see in the later movies.
They seem more connected to the living force.
More in tune with the natural world.
More compassionate.
They haven't lost that sense of wonder.
Like young Luke Skywalker.
Exactly.
Still exploring the Force's potential.
And sometimes that leads to trouble.
Like with Elzar Man?
He's always pushing the boundaries, trying to dive deeper into that ocean.
And sometimes he gets caught in the currents.
But it shows that even within the Jedi Order, there's room for different approaches to the Force.
Different interpretations.
Different perspectives.
And that diversity makes them stronger.
More resilient, more adaptable.
They're not a monolithic group.
They're a collection of individuals, each with their own unique connection to the Force.
And that strength, that unity, will be tested as the Nihil continue their rampage.
It will be a defining moment for the Jedi. And for the Republic?
I have a feeling they'll rise to the challenge.
I believe they will. They represent a beacon of hope in a galaxy teetering on the brink.
And their story is just beginning.
It's an exciting time to be a Star Wars fan.
All right, so we've talked about the Jedi, the Nihil, this great disaster. But let's dive into the political landscape a little more. We mentioned Chancellor Lina So and her vision of expansion. But what are the challenges she's facing? I mean, the great disaster alone must be a nightmare.
Oh, absolutely. The hyperspace shutdown has disrupted everything.
It's like a massive earthquake, shaking the foundations of the Republic.
And it's creating opportunities for those who want to see the Republic fall.
Like the Nihil.
Exactly. They're exploiting the situation, raiding vulnerable systems, spreading their influence.
It's classic order versus chaos.
With the Republic struggling to maintain control.
while the Nihil try to tear it all down.
A very dangerous time.
But the Republic isn't just reacting, right? They're also trying to rebuild, pushing forward with Chancellor Soule's vision. And that's where Starlight Beacon comes in.
Yes, the beacon of hope.
It's more than just a space station, isn't it?
It's a symbol of unity, of progress.
A place where different cultures can come together.
And work towards a common goal.
Almost like a microcosm of the Republic itself.
Exactly. And it's located in the Outer Rim.
A region often neglected by the Republic, where lawlessness has been allowed to fester.
So by building Starlight Beacon there, Chancellor Soule is making a statement.
She's saying the Republic is committed to peace and prosperity, even in the most remote corners of the galaxy.
It's a bold move.
Very bold.
But is it enough? Can one space station really make a difference?
That remains to be seen. But Starlight Beacon represents an ideal, a vision of a better future.
And ideals can be powerful things.
Especially in times of crisis.
They can inspire people to act.
To resist fear and despair.
To strive for something greater.
And the Jedi are very much a part of that ideal.
They're not just protectors.
They're ambassadors, healers, teachers.
Spreading the message of peace and unity.
They embody the Republic's highest aspirations.
And in a galaxy threatened by chaos and darkness,
they stand as a beacon of hope, a reminder that the light can still shine through. Okay, but here's where things get really interesting. Light of the Jedi isn't just a standalone story. It sets the stage for something much bigger. Remember those familiar names we talked about, like the Santekas?
Yes, the seeds of future events are being planted right here.
We're seeing connections to the Skywalker saga.
Even though it's centuries away.
It's like watching a historical drama unfold.
Knowing these events will have repercussions far beyond what the characters can imagine.
And it makes you wonder, how will the Jedi navigate the challenges ahead?
What events will ultimately lead to their downfall?
That's what makes the High Republic so exciting.
It's a fresh perspective on the Star Wars galaxy.
With new characters, new threats.
And a sense of optimism that we rarely see in other eras.
It's a chance to see the Jedi at their best.
Fighting for a galaxy that's still full of hope.
But knowing what we know about the future.
There's a sense of dramatic irony, too.
We know this golden age won't last.
The question is, how will it all come crashing down?
And how will these events shape the galaxy for centuries to come?
Those are questions that keep me coming back to the High Republic.
It's a story that's just beginning.
And I can't wait to see where it leads. Yeah, it's like we're watching this train wreck in slow motion. We know how it ends for the Jedi. Not well, but here they are, shining so brightly.
Yeah, it's like, what's going to bring them down? What are the seeds of their downfall that are already there?
That's the big mystery, isn't it? Not just the Nihil, but the subtle things. The cracks in the foundation.
The things they don't even see coming.
Exactly.
It's like a puzzle. We have some pieces, but not the whole picture.
We're watching these events unfold, knowing they'll have huge consequences.
But we don't know exactly how it all connects to the fall of the Jedi.
That's what makes it so interesting.
It's not just a rehash. We get to see the Jedi at their peak.
Their strengths and weaknesses.
And trying to figure out how it all goes wrong.
Exactly.
So what do you think? What are some of those weaknesses we see in the book that could foreshadow their downfall?
Well, one thing that jumps out is their faith in the Republic.
Okay, yeah.
They're so dedicated to those ideals, peace, justice,
right,
that they might be blind to the Republic's flaws.
They see it as this perfect system.
A shining beacon of hope.
But what happens when that beacon starts to flicker? Will they be able to adapt?
To challenge the Republic when it goes astray?
Or will their loyalty blind them?
That's the question.
And it ties into another potential weakness, I think. Their whole thing about emotions.
Oh, yes, their detachment.
They see emotions as something to be controlled, suppressed.
Even feared.
But the Nihil, they use emotions, right?
Oh, yeah, fear, anger. It's their weapon.
So the Jedi are almost fighting with one hand tied behind their back.
Denying themselves a whole range of experiences.
That could actually make them stronger.
Or adaptable.
More able to deal with the complexities of the galaxy.
Absolutely.
And doesn't the dark side feed on strong emotions?
It does.
So could this Jedi philosophy inadvertently make them more susceptible to the dark side?
It's a possibility, definitely.
Makes you think.
It's one of the things that makes the High Republic so fascinating.
It challenges our assumptions about the Jedi.
Makes us question their methods.
And Light of the Jedi really shows that they're not perfect.
No, they're not.
They make mistakes.
They have doubts, internal conflicts.
It makes them more relatable.
More human.
And it makes their eventual fall all the more tragic.
We see them at their best. Full of potential.
And yet, we know it won't last.
It adds a layer of dramatic irony to the whole story.
But it's not all doom and gloom, right?
No, not at all.
There's still so much hope in this book.
The Jedi are using their powers for good,
Helping people, inspiring them.
protecting the innocent.
It's what makes the High Republic so compelling.
It's a story about the best and the worst of the Jedi,
Their potential for greatness.
and their potential for downfall.
It reminds us that even the most powerful
Are not immune to change.
and decay,
Exactly.
even in a golden age, there are shadows.
Waiting to emerge.
Well, I think we've covered a lot.
We have.
The Great Disaster, the Jedi, the Nihil, the politics of this era.
And the hints of what's to come.
It's been a fascinating deep dive into the High Republic.
I agree.
And I think Light of the Jedi is just the beginning.
There's so much more to explore.
So if you're listening and you're intrigued, check out the book and the other stories from the High Republic.
It's a fresh perspective on Star Wars.
Oh, characters, new adventures.
New insights into the Force and the Jedi.
And for the longtime fans,
It's a chance to see the galaxy in a new light.
to explore a time before the Skywalker saga.
And to understand the events that shaped the galaxy's destiny.
Thanks for joining us.
May the Force be with you.
Yeah, and it makes you think about those weaknesses we talked about, like their faith in the Republic. Could that be their undoing in a way?
It's possible, yeah.
They're so dedicated to it, to the ideals of the Republic,
Right, peace, justice, all that.
but they might be blind to its flaws.
Because every system has flaws.
What if the Republic isn't as perfect as they believe?
What if it starts to decay from within?
Will they be able to see it?
Will they be able to challenge it?
Or will they just stay loyal, even as it crumbles around them?
That's a tough question.
And it's connected to that other weakness,
Ah,
their suppression of emotions.
yes, the Jedi way.
They're so afraid of strong emotions.
They see them as dangerous.
But what about the dark side?
It feeds on those emotions, doesn't it?
Fear, anger, hate.
Exactly.
So by denying their emotions, are they actually making themselves more vulnerable to the dark side?
That's a fascinating thought.
It's like they're walking a tightrope,
Trying to maintain balance.
but the ground beneath them is shifting. And Light of the Jedi shows us that the Jedi aren't infallible.
No, they're not.
They make mistakes. They have doubts.
Internal struggles.
It makes them feel more real,
More human.
and it makes their downfall even more tragic.
Because we see their potential.
We see how good they are, but we know it won't last.
It's like a Greek tragedy.
You know it's coming, but you can't look away.
And yet there's still so much hope in this book.
Right, they're not just messing up all the time.
We see them at their best, too.
Helping people.
Inspiring others.
Protecting the innocent. It's a reminder that they're not just warriors.
They're more than that.
They're healers, teachers, peacekeepers.
The best of what the Jedi can be.
It's what makes this era so interesting.
It's not just black and white.
There are shades of gray.
The Jedi are complex. The Republic is complex.
And the choices they make
will have
for
consequences.
centuries to come.
It's a story about the balance between light and darkness.
Of hope and despair.
And the struggle to find your way.
In a galaxy that's constantly changing.
I think that's what resonates with people.
It's a story about us, in a way.
Our own struggles.
Our own choices.
Yeah.
And the impact those choices have on the world around us.
Well said.
So Light of the Jedi is a great starting point.
If you want to explore the High Republic,
It gives you a taste of what this era is all about.
the characters, the setting, the stakes.
And it leaves you wanting more.
Definitely.
There are so many more stories to tell.
And I, for one, can't wait to see what happens next.
Me too.
Yeah.
It's an exciting time to be a Star Wars fan.
Absolutely.
So thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the High Republic.
It's been a pleasure.
May the Force be with you always.